Hey there, saltwater angler, and welcome to the Lower Chesapeake Bay Fishing Report, bringing you the current fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. Now let's take a moment and learn who's making this show possible, and then we'll jump into the reports. Sam Rust Seafood, your locally trusted source for premium wholesale seafood. Servicing customers from Hampton Roads down through the Outer Banks, Richmond, and surrounding areas, including Fredericksburg, Charlottesville, and Lynchburg, for over 80 years. Committed to the highest standards in the industry, Sam Rust distributes the best of the ocean directly to your restaurant, hotel, or grocery store on time and at a great price. Visit samrust.com to discover how quality, tradition, and sustainability come together. So don't cuss, call Sam Rust. Listen up. AFTCO has a promotional gift for all Great Days Outdoors Podcast Network listeners. They're now offering a camo sunglasses cleaner cloth with any purchase of AFTCO products. For those cold, wet, or windy days, I especially enjoy my weatherproof fabric barricade jacket, as well as my Helm insulated fishing gloves. All you got to do to get your coupon code is text LCBFR to 779-345-2918. You'll get subscribed to our email list, and we'll send you the promo code via email.
What's up, snowmen and snow ladies? It is, it's right here in the middle of Snowmageddon, driving back from Norfolk Airport. My older brother in tow because his flight got canceled, and got the crowd favorite on this week, Captain Bill Pappas with Playing Hooky Charters. Welcome back to the show, Cap. How are we feeling?
Good, man. Good, man. That's funny. Crowd favorite. Yeah.
We got to give the people what they want. But, dude, the snow is wild. I know you're in South Virginia Beach. What's it looking like at your house?
It's starting to pile up. I gotta admit, it's getting deep. It's getting deep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is. We're turning left onto Independence off the boulevard, and Don, or whatever his name is, from one of the news stations, is setting up. I'm currently drifting across Independence at a 45. I mean, we're living right now. But despite the weather, I mean, it's been cold the last couple of days, but you had a couple of decent weather days. Tell us what you guys have been doing. I've seen some big sea bass coming over the side of Playing Hooky.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you what. We slid out there on Tuesday. One of our favorite guests, James, and his dad went out there. That was awesome. Just two of them. We got down. We went out to our spot and had a good time fishing on the wrecks. I mean, they really wanted some jumbo, so they wanted to travel far. He said so. We took them a little extra distance and really put a hurting on some big fish. I think Russ was like the smallest fish was like 14 inches and everything.
Wow.
Else. Yeah, they were all. I mean, they were just studs. I mean, they got a couple nice trophy and one that was really close to them. Both of them might have had a trophy at the same time. I mean, they'll never forget that trip. We like them guys a lot, so looking forward to seeing them come back and take them out this summer as well.
That's amazing. Now, you said go a little farther, in contrast to being a little further inshore, how much does that really play a part into, getting located on some larger size sea bass?
Well, it's kind of like if you're ready to fight some sharks and you're ready to fight some fish, then you go fishing. If you're not ready to do both of those things, then you're not just going to go sea bass fishing. If you have your mindset where, hey, they threw a bunch of fish in the dock, I'm going to do the same thing. Oh man, it is that easy sometimes. I got it when there's clouds and clouds of fish, or when the trawlers haven't been wiping out everything on top of the wrecks they can possibly get in this area. There's some really prime fishing, and that can be up. That can be 15, 20, 30. 35, 33 at the triangles. You can go, 40s. There's certain distances that start to hold these fish when the water gets cold. And then you can also boost it, like I'm saying, going a little further. You can get up to 60 miles, 70 miles. You can go 200 feet for sea bass, 300. I've caught them up to, I think at deepest I've caught a sea bass maybe 400 feet. I mean, they're probably deeper than that, but I know they are. But you'll find them. I like to fish anywhere between that and 250. That'd be a prime number of where you can pile them up. If you have a wreck or a structure or some rocks anywhere under 250 feet, and you can use your apps to find that, guys. You can use your Garmin. Your Garmin machine has it in the chart. You can use it in your Navionics app. You could come on my boat and steal my numbers. There's a ton of ways to go ahead. I'm serious. There's a great way to do it. I'll give you a good example. The other day, someone had went on one of our trips and stolen our numbers. I mean, they're not our numbers. We don't own the ocean. We get it. Yeah, I know.
Right.
You'd say, how do you know it was yours? They said, well, on December 7th, somebody put in the public sphere on Navionics, boom, had a little pin. It said, It said Playing Hooky Charters go-to sea bass spot. And I was like, wow, I found the 5 or 6 guys who went on that trip. And I was like, come on, guys, really? And one of the kids is like, yeah, my dad commercial fishes. And boy, oh boy,
Oh
it's
man.
just like that where they send, it just didn't work out really well for us or for fishermen because of that.
You know, you
So,
said that was December the 7th, right?
yeah, that's when it was entered.
I remember hearing on the police scanner that there was a couple of fatalities down at Rudy Inlet. Was that the guys? You took them out? I'm
Oh yeah,
kidding.
no, okay,
I'm
got it, bro. I
kidding.
was like, whoa, hold on, man. I was like, no, nobody died in our inlet, bro. What are you talking about? Then I smoked them. No,
Don't mess with the numbers. Don't mess with the captain's hard-earned numbers. But
man.
no, jokes aside, I do have a question. You mentioned water temperature. You know, we've typically seen them out there in those, late fall months, September, October. This time of year, what temperatures are we actually seeing them in? Where is it changing the productivity, whether we're in like 45 to 48 degree water, or are you going for slightly warmer water?
I don't look at the water temperature. I just go to the wrecks and I know the time of year. And it's at a certain time of year, each fish is gonna, be more biting. One isn't. I mean, you can catch tautog when it's I like 46 to 56. If
Uh-huh.
you want to play the temperature game, that's about the one that I think matters the most. I've seen
Okay.
the bluefin bit in 43. I mean, supposedly the when you get down to the deep area and even offshore, constant bottom temperatures around 53 degrees. It's the same thing when you dig down in the air 3 feet, 4 feet.
Ah,
It's
okay.
it's 53 degrees. So I've also the same person who had a temperature gun, and I would send my sinkers down to the bottom, and I've pulled in 34 degrees off the bottom before. Down in
Wow.
Carolina, I've shot, I pulled it all the way up, got the sinker, and we shot the sinker with the temperature gun, and it was 34 degrees. So I've seen it be pretty cold, pretty deep, and it might have even been colder than it seemed like it was up top at that point. But that was in the dead of winter, and that was 15 years ago down in Carolina. So I don't know. I would just go with time of year, what you've done in the past, what other people are catching. You should know. I mean, you can just try even if it's nobody's caught them yet. One like this year, I was like nobody's caught them yet, and I'm going sword fishing, and we went sword fishing, and it was the time. It was the same time as it used to be 3 years ago. Now, 2 years ago wasn't that good, and the last year wasn't that good either. And then, or the year before, I mean, and then last year ended up being all right for a little while till the commercial guys really saturated the area, and it was over
Mm, mm.
just like
And
that.
then in terms of like your sea bass fishing in February, if you could rewind the tape a little bit back to some of the VMRC conversations, we didn't used to always have this February sea bass season. So what were some of the key differentiators that unlocked this opportunity for us to get out there during the month of February and go after these beautiful sea bass?
Well, it's more of an illusion, man. And I'm not coming down on the VMRC and the organizations when I say this, but I am going to be very transparent and I'm going to be very honest. You definitely hit a subject that yeah, I don't know if you wanted to ask me, but
Just give me the
I'll give you this.
the
Look, look,
light
look.
version.
No, this is a great question though. Here, no, you need a real answer. The real answer is it was never closed before forever. They took something away from us to make it look like they're giving us something, buddy, because it's nothing they're giving us, bud. The only way to regulator regulates is by taking something away, bud. And they don't look busy if not, man. They don't do anything. Okay, you catch too many fish, we're taking some fish away. Oh, you catching
Mm,
not enough fish? Hold on. We're taking some fish away. And the bottom line is when they take fish away, they never give them back, man, because there's nobody fishing for sea bass with all the bluefin for 2 years in a row. There's nobody
right.
fishing. Why not have January open? Because people are still bluefin, and why not have March open? The fish might not bite that good as they do, and even February they're not biting the greatest right now. That's the other thing. You have to bust your butt to get these sea bass. You got to move a lot, and you have to be patient, and you have to keep know the strategy of catching them, and that there's a deal to that. And it's not regulation. That's the hardest part. So yes, we can kiss the ring, and yes, we can jump to the burning hoops and go down there, and we can get a sea bass season. That's great of them. That's so benevolent of them to go ahead and give us something that they took away that they didn't need to take away.
Mm,
When they found out that we were getting our regulations from the Atlantic Marine ASMFMC saying that we can't have sea bass because they're catching too many in Merritt or up in the bay. What is the Hudson Bay? They're catching too
yeah.
many because then they're using those averages against us down here and saying that we don't have any when we have the healthiest population. So they were taking away something that they need to take away. They admitted it. Oh, we admit it doesn't need to be taken away, but that's what they said we have to do. So that's what we got to do. We got to take the reduction. They didn't fight. They just stick up to all these non-appointed people. It is the right time to say it, but it would be some great to see the Department of Government Efficiency. I'm not being political. I'm just being American. Come clean these houses, man. There's no take these burning hoops down, man. Anyway, so I'm sure we want to go back to sea bass quick, just regular sea bass fishing. But I'll tell you
No,
what,
you're
that's a sore subject, man. It really is, because they're not. We have to beg them for. They should be opening it. They shouldn't be taking any away this summer. There shouldn't be any
right.
reduction at the end of the year. They should be graciously saying, "Hey, here's where you get 12 and a half inches again, 15 per person." Fine. They could ask the fishermen to make the rules, and we'd make better rules than they do. We wouldn't be like, give us 100 sea bass. I'd be out there all day long. I'm not doing
Right.
that. I mean,
And nobody wants to clean that many fish either. That's a chore when you get back to the dock.
and anybody who knows anything about fishing any wreck, you can crush a wreck by going over and over to the same one, unless it's huge and you barely go. But so it's you have to move around anyway. You would never want to take more fish than you could possibly catch, because it just makes more work, and there's just not enough. You conserve, and everybody would know that. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know the exact answer, but I know whatever they're doing is not it. It needs to be wide open. Sea bass needs to be wide open. There's no reason.
You bring up a good point, and it takes me back to something that Russ Castinas aboard Top Notch has said before. It's just like, remember, the ocean isn't a grocery store. Nobody goes in there and restocks it at night. So moving around and being mindful of your harvest and what you really need versus what you want, that's all something that obviously you guys are taking a great deal of responsibility for as charter captains, but also a reminder to us recreational, like, just because we can go out there and grease a limit, do you really need that many? Ask that question to yourself before, putting them all in the box.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the over 20 thing. Some people think it's a big deal, and it could be to them, and that's fine. And they can put it on other people to conserve the sport for other people for trout. I get that. And you know what, though? That actually is a self-imposed law, because the law says you can do this. And they're not all, they're invisible game wardens calling for over 20, when the rules say you can eat with it up to 24 inch, or, whatever it is, you can kill one up to 9 pounds if you
right. Yeah.
So I mean, we got to follow the rules, and the rules need to be set up, I would say, with a lot more fisherman input and a lot more charter captain input, instead of making us do all these reports and then throwing them away, not doing nothing.
Yeah. And there's a good takeaway there too, because I know that you show up to some of those meetings. I've seen some of the other local folks, to the ASFMC, VMRC meetings, the FinFish committees, and the more that folks show up and represent and have the discussions, dive into the data, and provide their input, it all goes towards helping make better decisions that are equitable, across all concerned parties. But I do want to dive back into the actual fishing for a second. I'm curious. I saw you guys pulling in, these jumbos, and I saw as many as 3 and 4 at a time. I know in the past we've talked about maybe, just using 2 dropper loops on your rig, but talk me through your current rig that you're using, and why, and what kind of bait, what size hook, and what's been effective when you are out there in that, 200 foot of water range.
Great questions. When I'm up top and I'm driving, I've already got to have them preloaded with a few things downstairs. I need them to know when we're leaving the dock that morning that, hey, look, when you get that fish to bite and you're up to 150, 100 feet, 80 feet, whatever we're fishing, and even 200 feet, when you feel that first bite, give it a whack, like a quick little bow, like about at least 1 to 2 feet of a jerk, just to pop that hook through their face. Now, you might be getting a bite, you might have a fish on, but he might not be hooked that well. So the first thing you want to do with a nice, we like to use some circle hooks, get a nice little pop on their face, and then reel up a couple cranks. Now, when you're reeling up, you'll know by the weight of it if you have dinner on there or not. If you have dinner on there, if you don't have dinner on there and you've reeled in a few already, and you know that there might be a smaller fish, leave that, put him back down there on the bottom, and let it, and then get another bite. When you feel that second bite, bang, 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 then go ahead and pop it again, pop another hook set, because you're going to put it on. And then give it a few more cranks, and it feels double as heavy. You can reel it, or you can wait for 3, or you can get ambushed 2 or 3 at once. Because if you pull to the right spot, sometimes you don't even choose. You hit the bottom, and you're just like, oh, and all your hooks are covered up.
Oh wow!
A lot of times you got to work on a lot of these wrecks, and you get people just pulling the rod off the bottom, not leaving it still. I'm watching them from up top, watching what's going on. And eventually they're getting fish hooked, and they're not hooking them, but they're waiting for another bite, and they're losing that fish. And, or someone's just leaving one on way too long, and they've already got all their other baits gone. I'm like, hey, man, what time to bring it up and check your bait? And a lot of times I make a joke up top. They bring it up with 4 empty hooks, and I'm like, thanks. Somebody's got to feed my farm down there. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I call it a farm because you don't kill all your chickens on a farm. You leave a couple. You don't kill all your your cows on the farm. You leave a that way you got more next time you come back. So that's the same thing about the fishing. You don't got to sit on every piece and get every single fish that'll possibly bite that day. You go to another one. And that way you keep some fish on those wrecks for the next time you come out there. And that's what I try to do. I try to move around, and that also helps the wreck guys out there too. I'm not out there zapping them away. You get a head
Yeah.
wreck, you get a 50, 60 person head boat on a wreck, which that's the way it goes. I mean, they can really put a banging on some of those fish, so you'll know when someone's been there or not. And just the same thing goes with the trawlers. They come swoop over there and swipe all the fish, or they send a guy out on your boat and swipe your numbers. You never know.
That's for those listening, you've been warned. You got to go out there and earn those numbers. And one of the things I love about playing hooky and what you do is you've got, obviously a perfect vessel. I'm going to ask you in a second to just kind of remind us, the vessel that you're running out there. But tell us briefly, for those listening, it's always tough sometimes to grab a group of 4 and afford, the whole, trip. But you guys exclusively, or not exclusively, but you often offer the walk-on trips, and you've got the text message, group thread that you can get on and get the alerts and whatnot. Talk us through that, how it works, and what those trips are typically like as a walk-on guest.
Man, that's awesome that you asked that. Yeah, well, a few years back, I used to see the Carolina would have every so often they'd call a makeup trip, and it was a makeup trip, and I kept picturing makeup on like a lady or something. So I was like, man, that's not a makeup trip. I didn't like the sound of it. So I was like, you know what? Everybody always wants to walk on and walk off. So I made up the expression in my mind. I was like, a walk-on trip. So I made up the 2 words walk on. I was like, playing hooky walk-ons. And what's interesting is you see a lot of walk-ons now, which is pretty cool, man, to come up with that. And I've seen the shrimp guys, had this little texter going out and stuff, and you pay a lot of money for that. But I was like, let me give this a try. And I went in a certain direction thinking of the person who wanted to go fishing, man, because there's a lot of calls that I'd always get about, do you have another spot? And so I started to come up with these walk-on trips, and the only way that's going to be successful was tons and tons of behind-the-scenes groundwork, where you keep getting people signed up for these texts, and you lose a lot. I've had 1,500 signed up, and still keep about 820 on there right now, and maybe 830. It's rolling pretty good. It'll get up there again, about 100 a year. But anyway, wow. You send out these texts, and you put together a trip a few days in advance, because if you put one, you'll see somebody. I said it last time, they're putting a trip so far advanced, you can't take a day off for that, or you could, but hey, a day off is a day off. So I'm cheering for that. But I'd rather you went fishing. That's what they wanted to do. So I make it where you can 3 to 5 days out when I feel like, and this is the honest truth, in the summertime, you can predict maybe a week away. You get some good layouts of weather where you're like, all right, I can trust this forecast. In the wintertime, that forecast right around December starts to get iffy down to 3 days, and then you're down to about 2 days. You can even get some shifts in the last day late in the winter. Just that's the way it goes. But you try your best, and you get a good forecast. And 9 out of 10 times it was definitely, every so often you're like, well, we're going, and we go and we catch fish, and the waves are just a tiny bit bigger than we think. But our boat can handle them. We run that 30-foot Seahawk. We get you out there. And the best part about it is when you don't know anybody and you hop on the boat, you see people with the same backgrounds or they like the same this or that. And you're just watching people from all different locations and areas just coming together and having a good time, becoming a crew, trading numbers at the end of the trip. And even guys, even guys with their own boats, dude, they'll be like, hey man, I'll take you fishing on my boat. They're like, oh, that's cool. I don't have nobody to go with. And then they find somebody to go with and they become buddies. And it's a cool thing, man. You see couples, you'll see 3 people come out there together, or, a lot of buddies want to go out there together. And it just saves a lot of money, because not everybody can afford a whole boat. Heck, I made that up because that was me before. I wanted to go fish all the time, and I didn't always have a crew. And sometimes just to go, you're better off, because you don't want to get told no. You don't want everyone to dock. You just pay for the whole boat and be like, hey, you want to go? And then next, your 3 buddies they were a little bit iffy. Oh, they'll sure go then. You throw down for a boat, you get to go fishing. That's the way it works, So
yeah, I mean, fishing in general, and especially going on a charter, I'll kind of coin this phrase, like a high value experience is not cheap. So you guys make it affordable to where you can get out and have that high value experience with one of the best. So, folks are listening, they want to get up and get on playing hooky, go fishing with you, get on a walk on. What's the best way for them to contact you so they can book a trip?
Gotcha. I'll give you a quick average price too, because I always get that question. Average price for the sea bass and the walk-ons usually is $300 per day, and that includes the tip. And for the offshore trips, it's $520, and that gets you 6 people out there doing the offshore thing with deep drop, whether it be deep drop or marlin, tuna, swordfish, and hopefully tuna. Did I say tuna? I love tuna. Okay, now here's how you
Oh
get
yeah.
playing hooky. How do you get it? There's not an app, well, not yet, but there's a it's PHC, it's playinghookycharters.com, and there's also it's playing hooky charters slash walk on dash ons. It's on the website, but it's an easy
Yeah, and
place
I'll put it in the
yeah.
show notes for us too.
Oh, yeah, it's really easy to sign up for the text. You just tap the link on the website. It'll take you to it. It'll sign you right up, and whenever you want to stop, you just text stop. Now you're not in a group text with 800 people. You'll get your text
Personal text
with your own little link, and if you you can reply to it. It says not to, but you can say something back like I got to or whatever, and I'll see your text and you get signed up. It's real easy. It just takes you to a link where you can put a deposit down, hold your spot. And if I have to move the trip or anything like that, you don't got to worry about it. If we're not going, I won't keep your deposit. But if you don't show up and you're oopsie whoopsie and you're going to be 2 hours late, and we're going to eat your deposit and not be happy that and the next time you'll be required to pay in full before you can take up a spot. But anyway, it's a really good time. People really love the walk-ons. Russ is a great mate to have, and you get back and it's $20 per person. You get your fish clean, bagged, skinned, filleted, and we take away and dispose of the carcasses for you too. So you just leave with a bag of meat, bring a cooler, smaller or pretty nice cooler, and some ice. Hook you up for the road, and the furthest one away gets their fish clean first.
There you go. I love it. Well, Captain Bill, it's always a pleasure just to get to catch up, hear the stories. Before we wrap up, I'm curious: are you a snow angel guy or a snowman guy?
That was a real easy question, bro. I like snow angels, but when I do it, I always have giant snowballs. I didn't mean to say that. There.
We'll have to edit that part out. Just kidding. We're leaving that in there. Well, hey, send us a picture of your best snowman with his snowballs, and we'll look forward to catching up with you real soon.
All right, buddy. Hopefully the snowblower comes through. All right, have a good one.
Hey, you too, folks. That was a wild ride with Captain Bill, as it always is. Please hang tight for a second. We're going to chat and hear from some of our sponsors, and we'll be back with you real soon.
Air Medcare. Would your insurance cover an air ambulance in a medical emergency? The fact is, insurance often doesn't cover the full cost of medical flights, leaving you and your loved ones at financial risk. But with an Air Medcare network membership, you can focus on recovery and not on finances should the unexpected happen. Air Medcare takes care of everything, with no costs for flights only when flown by one of our providers. Membership covers your full household and starts at $99 a year. Visit gdo.deals/airmedcare to enroll.
Tired of battling salt corrosion on your boat, trailer, and reels? Meet Salt's Gone, your ultimate solution. This powerful, instantly acting chelating agent tackles salt and brine with ease, featuring corrosion inhibitors to protect against future damage and surfactants for a thorough clean. Salt's Gone is pH neutral, making it safe for all boat materials: metal, glass, paint, vinyl wraps, and more. Highly concentrated, just 1 gallon creates 100 gallons of ready-to-use solution. Apply it with or without running water. It's perfect for any situation. Use code GREATDAYS10 to save 10% at saltsgone.com. Or if you need faster delivery, use Amazon or your favorite retailer.
All right, y'all. Well, welcome to the final segment of this week. We're going to dive into a topic that is exciting right now as the season change, speckled trout. We have Captain Travis Kemp with Foolproof Fishing back on the show. Captain Travis, how we doing, man? Welcome back.
Pretty good. How you doing, Luke?
Good, man. It was great to see you last night at the meeting, and I understand right before we hit record, you were telling me a little bit about what you got going on with the boat right now. Your hands and your hair are all blue. What's that all about?
Yeah, bottom paint madness, man. I should have done a little bit more, or a few more coats, I should say, earlier this spring, and I wouldn't have to be doing this all again. But was in a hurry to get it in the water, and here we are doing it again.
Yeah, well, bottom paint is important, especially for guys like yourself that, keep the boat in the water. Keeping those barnacles and that growth off that bottom is critical. So all your sweat and hard work is definitely worth it, keeping that thing clean.
That's right. Clean boat's a happy boat, and a happy boat catches fish.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I was just talking about how daggone cold it is all of a sudden. You said the wind had changed. What do you think's going to be coming up? Are you prepping to get the boat back into the river so you guys can chase some of those speckled trout?
Yeah, that's the plan. Once I get this bottom paint done and a few other little miniature odd and ends for the maintenance stuff. I'm hoping to get it in a slip in the river and start running some speckled trout trips. The bite has been pretty unbelievable already.
Oh, that's exciting to hear. So when you say river, a couple rivers around this area, which river are you going to be targeting?
The river, the Elizabeth River.
And you're taking me back to the old days of the hot ditch back in, been over 12, 15 years now. I've got my start fishing from a kayak in that river. And man, I tell you what, those are some fun times back when that hot ditch was running and those big trout were rolling through there and big puppy drum. Is it still like that or has it changed?
It's taken some years for it to get, kind of settled into a normal, but it's pretty good. A lot of big fish and a lot of fish.
Mm.
I wouldn't say it's hot ditch standards, like the old days where on, any day you could catch a 30-incher over there, but
yeah,
it's certainly good. A lot of quality fish.
Do you guys still go over, we called it the Party Cove. Is that still a hot ticket place or is that kind of washed out just due to pressure?
Well, I think that they call that Bryan's Cove now, and there's condos around it and a little park and everything and a big dock out in the side of it.
Oh my.
But it's definitely still a place where people go. And there's usually any given day that it's fishable. There's a boat goes in there.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, you'd see a lot of guys using those slip bobber rigs. It took a little while to figure out how to work that, but that kind of seemed to be the go-to is a slip bobber rig with a mud minnow.
Mm-hmm. Yep, anything from mud minnows to a 7-inch mullet. I've seen it.
So, the water in the Elizabeth River, in contrast to the Lynnhaven, and I should make a little disclaimer. We're probably going to hear some big fish stories, from Captain Travis. For those of you that are in Troutzilla, Long Bay Point, are one of our sponsors, hosting a speckled trout tournament. You got to be in the waters of the Lynnhaven for that tournament. So don't get any bright ideas here and Captain Travis talk about the big fish in the Elizabeth. But the water over there is so different in terms of its color. Why is that in contrast to like the Lynnhaven?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you with 100% certainty, but I would say it's probably just darker from the tannins in the water. From, it's more inland, a little more fresh, a lot more leaves and mud bottom. But Lynnhaven has a lot more tidal flow. Closer to the bay, you get a lot cleaner water in there.
That makes sense. So the Elizabeth is aged like a good whiskey in a barrel, just picks up all those tannins. And does that impact the way that you target, speckled trout in contrast to the Lynnhaven, for example, where maybe there's a little bit more clarity and they can get their eyes on it a little bit better? Or do you kind of use similar tactics?
It's pretty similar. There's only a few times that, you'll adjust mainly just the color of your bait, more or less because of the color of the water. Lynnhaven, and other places where you have a lot cleaner water, especially, I do a lot of speckled trout surf fishing. We'll use lighter, translucent colors, stuff like that. But when you're fishing in the darker waters, contrast to popular belief, a lot of times darker colors and more, natural purples, browns, stuff like that do better.
Interesting. Yeah, you mentioned you fish for them from the surf. Memory serves, you just recently won a drum tournament.
Yeah, my team, the Foolproof Fishing Team, we won most drum as a team, and Kyle, one of my buddies, won most drum as an individual in the North Carolina Beach Buggy Tournament.
Oh man, congratulations!
Yeah, man, thank you.
That's awesome. So, what was the total number of you guys won? Total number of drum caught between the two of you. What was that total number?
10. We caught 10 in 60 hours, 10 drum, and of those, 9 of them were, citation size, 40+ inch fish. In
That's
North
awesome.
Carolina, if it's 40 inches.
That is awesome. All from shore. Man, that's fantastic.
Yep.
All right, so speckled trout, they like a little bit darker natural color. When you get into the Elizabeth River, what are you looking for when you try to get located on an area that you're going to start making some casts? Over there, what do you like to look for in terms of those bottom features or water temperatures? What are some of those standout features that kind of draw you in?
A lot of it is the water temperature and, the actual outside conditions, which way the wind's blowing, the air temperature, things like that determine where the fish typically stage up. And then, me personally, I rely heavily on my electronics to know where the fish are. When you're trying to be quick and I guess accurate with where you're at and where you're fishing, electronics are worth their weight in gold, because you don't waste time casting somewhere where there's no fish. I can find them, know they're there, and then, we find out what they want to eat.
Yeah, and that's, I'm sure, always the tricky part. So when you head out on a day on the Elizabeth River, how many different rods do you have on board? What type of rods and reels, and what would be your kind of mainstays that you have tied up and ready to throw when you do get located on some fish?
Well, my favorite way to catch them is top water. I can't lie there. Catching them on top water is probably the most fun way to catch them, but it's not realistic to do that every day. So I would say probably the most all-around bait for me to use is going to be like a Paul Brown.
Yep.
So a lure like that, or, a mirror lure like a 27 MR, and then you've always got the soft plastic and the jig head, which is good anytime, anywhere.
Yeah. And those Paul Browns or the mirror lures, are you a stock hook guy, or do you like to go in there and change hooks out and put something a little bit different on?
Every now and then I'll put the old feather hook on the back, get a little teaser back there.
Back in the day, I did the same, and I was a big fan of the ProCure gel. I don't know if you still find that to be effective or not, but that little feather in the back, I always thought that was a good place to dab some of that stuff on, because I always just pictured it leaving a nice little trail behind for those trout to pick up on and hopefully follow and find that bait.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a little bit of ProCure goes a long way. Now, I will say probably one of the easiest ways to catch them, which if you go in the Elizabeth River and you see what everybody else is doing, it's trolling. If I'm going fishing for myself, I'm not a huge fan of it. Although, for charter fishing and things like that, when you have, especially kids or less experienced anglers, trolling is certainly a very effective way to fish.
I do recall seeing that back in the day, and a typical trolling setup, you'd have same rods that you'd maybe cast with. And what are you trolling? Are you just trolling paddle tails or jigs?
Yep, just curl tails or paddle tails on a jig head, or swim baits like a storm shad or something like that. Some guys will troll mirror lures, but that gets expensive.
Well, I gotta tell you this story, because I didn't know anything about fishing back when I went on that river for the first few times. And there was an old man from my church named Cliff Copeland, and he used to be a professional bass fisherman. And he took me out there, and, the reason I tell this story is because you said a name of a lure earlier that brings back some funny memories. But I fished with him for months, and we'd go out there in his little aluminum boat, and he'd catch 10 fish to my one every single time. And I'd get so frustrated. He'd just sit over there and chuckle and chuckle. And so finally one day I'm like, man, would you just tell me what it is? And, he slowly but surely spoon fed me some information and helped me to learn to think about the lure in the water and to really imagine its movements and, almost anticipate and feel that trout's mouth attacking the lure. But it was after some time that he finally looked over at me and said, "Here, why don't you tie one of these on?" And I was like, "What is this?" And he's like, "I won't tell you." And it wasn't until several months after that he finally told me that it was the Paul Brown, and he had been buying them directly from Paul Brown back in the day from Florida for years. And anyways, it was just hilarious. He kept that secret from me for a long time before he finally told me what it was that he was fishing with. But that is definitely a great lure. The action on those things is remarkable. They got that little bead inside of them for that little bit of a clack. Got to fish them slow though, especially as those temperatures drop. What temperature would you say in the water is like when you get to a certain temp, when do you really start to slow things down?
Man, I mean, we've caught them down into the 40s, and you're fishing super slow, almost painfully slow. There's some times when I fish in some spots in North Carolina where when we're fishing, some of the kayak guys will tell you that they'll jig their mirror lure 2 or 3 times and then send a text message before they pick the rod back up and jig it again.
Man, that is that requires some patience and almost you gotta operate with a great sense of hope that there is going to be a bite that comes. I forget who it was we were talking with recently about, favorite bait or this, that, or the other, and the advice was, you gotta fish with a great sense of hope, a great sense of optimism, because it's going to help you to stick to that plan, to be patient. Whereas, me, I'm very ADHD, and I cast that thing out there and I don't get a bite within the first couple twitches, I'm liable to just crank it on back in. But the reality is you need to leave that thing in the water and work it faithfully with a great sense of hope all the way back to the water, all back to the boat.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, a big thing that we do, you can ask Jack, a king tide Jack. I fished with him a couple weeks ago in Lynnhaven, and the fish would not bite anything but a topwater. We threw every kind of mirror lure, softines, jig head, soft plastics, and we'd get a few bites, but man, they were eating topwater. We were fishing flat, which is, it's a good topwater location, but it was just strange to not get many bites on anything else, that they were crushing topwater. So, we do a lot of bait changing to find out what the fish want.
And when it comes to bait changing, are you cutting and retying? Are you using speed clips, tying loop knots? Like what do you typically do for those specs?
Now, a lot of times I'll use a little tactical angler's clip.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it when I'm fishing topwaters. So I usually have a rod with a topwater lure on it at all times. Yeah. And that one just kind of stays as the topwater rod. And the other two will be switching out baits with a quick clip.
Yep. That's a great tip right there, because, you're much more likely to actually change a bait out and try something different when it's the barrier of entry is lowered, because you can use that quick little speed clip instead of, cutting and retying. So, for those listening, definitely add that to your arsenal and your tackle bag to have. They sell them, at Long Bay Point and other places, where just a little clip that you tie on, get the lowest profile one that you can manage with your fingers, because you don't want to scare the fish away with it. But they do work great.
That's right.
And they function like a loop knot in a sense, right? Where you get that little bit extra action out of each twitch.
Yep, a little bit more action. It adds a little bit of weight to the nose of, you don't want to use it on like a 17. I wouldn't personally use it on like a 17 MR, because that's such a small profile lure, light lure, that you add weight to the front of it, it's gonna swim differently. But anything like a Softine XL, Fat Boys, twitch baits, jerk baits, things like that, soft plastics on jig heads, to me, I don't think it makes a difference. I actually think it helps add a little bit of action to it.
That makes sense. And then you mentioned, fishing with Captain Jack on king tide, and they were only responding to the top water. Describe the conditions? Like what depth were you in? What was the water temp, air temp, time of day?
Man, you're asking too many questions, Luke.
We want to know. Don't tell me where, but just, give me a little insight.
No, it was probably 3 foot deep, and it was the middle of the night, slick calm.
Okay. Got it. It's interesting.
Yeah.
The speckled trout, it's such an illustrious fish in terms of like what it'll turn on to sometimes, and then other times not. And, over the years, how much credit do you give to moon phase? You take a situation like that, middle of the night, slick calm, which, by the way, that in and of itself takes a certain level of commitment to either stay up late enough or get up early enough to go make that happen. But moon phase, do you feel that plays a part at all?
Absolutely. Now, I can't go on here and tell you that I am 100% having that dialed in. I have some guys that are guides that strictly speckled trout fish down in Carolina that swear by the majors and the minors and things like that, and when the fish are going to bite on this condition on this part of the moon phase, and they've got it dialed in. I'm getting there. If there's fish out there and I see them, I can generally scrap out a few bites. But these guys, they won't even go unless they know it's going to be perfect, and then they just go hammer them. That's something that I'm working towards.
Yeah. And then I'll ask you this question. Speaking of hammering them, we've been having a lot of conversation recently about sustainable practices and taking ownership as recreational anglers, and of course as charter guides. The terminology release over 20, when you hear that, what does that mean to you, and why do you feel that that's important?
For me personally, I'm not a huge fan of eating trout, so they pretty much all get let go. But, for charters and sustainability in that route, I try to encourage it, but at the end of the day, it's if it's legal and they want to do it, they can keep what they want to keep. All we can do is encourage people to, practice sustainable harvest.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day too, it's just the thrill of the chase. I think that you said earlier you love that topwater bite the most. I feel like that's the cobia fisherman in you. Is like something about a visual bite is just nothing beats it. It's so fun.
Yeah. Saturday night I fished the Elizabeth for the first time this fall. I've fished Lynnhaven quite a few times and just finally had the opportunity, now that all my surf fishing tournaments have come to an end, and snuck out there as soon as I got home from Hatteras. And Saturday night, me and my buddy Andy, who's on my surf fishing team, we went out there and smoked him on topwaters for
that's awesome
3 hours. I think we didn't have any real giants, but he did manage one 24-incher, and I had probably 10 that were over 20.
That's awesome. What's your personal best in terms of total length?
My personal best is 28.5. I have not broken the 30-inch mark like a lot of people have nowadays, but
you and me both.
It'll happen. It'll happen.
Oh yeah, we were discussing offline our ages, and we've got plenty of years ahead of us to figure that 30+ inch fish out, and it's just cool to get to experience such a neat fishery. Again, like zoom out and look at a map, the Chesapeake Bay and its tributaries and the rivers. I mean, we live in an absolute heaven for fishing, and to have this sort of fishery available to us in these colder months that even get better as these temperatures cool off. It's just a true blessing, and it's awesome to know that we now have some options for charters like yourself to get out there and go experience it. So folks that are listening, they're like, man, I got to get on that. I got to get on that bite. I got to experience that. When are you going to start running those trips, and how can folks get up with you and book one of them?
The trips should be starting within the next week or so. And if anybody is trying to contact me, Foolproof Fishing on Facebook or Instagram, or just give me a call, which is 252-435-5967.
Awesome. Well, Captain Travis, it's always a pleasure to get to talk to you, pick your brain, learn some things, and just talk a little fishing. So thanks for being on the show, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
It's time we talked about catching some serious savings. Imagine harnessing the power of the sun to cut your energy bills and having a roof that's built to last. Convert Solar and Roofing specializes in top-notch solar installations and durable roofing solutions that stand up to the toughest elements. Their solar panels are designed to maximize efficiency, and their roofs are built with premium materials to ensure long-lasting protection. Whether you're out on the water or at home, their expert team ensures you're covered. As fellow anglers in the Lower Chesapeake Bay, the team at Convert Solar and Roofing cares about both sustainable living and sustainable fishing. So reel in those savings today and visit www.convert-solar.com or call 757-44-SOLAR. Make your energy and roof as reliable as your favorite fishing lure. Call Convert Solar and Roofing today. Hooked on fishing? Then you're part of the local community that Long Bay Point Bait and Tackle cares about serving and giving back to, providing you with the right selection for each season's target species. They're your one-stop shop to gear up with the best bait, tackle, and insider tips to catch your next trophy fish. You can fuel up right out front on the water and then chat with the crew inside for hot tips on where they're biting. So swing by today. Long Bay Point Bait and Tackle, where your fishing adventures start and finish with your trophy catch on their scales. Pure Flat Slick Lures are tried, true, and guide approved. Slick Lures catch big speckled trout, redfish, flounder, and more. You can cast them a mile, and they produce a highly erratic baitfish imitation with a twitching retrieve. The tournament-winning Slick has helped many anglers set personal best records. Whether you're fishing the OG Slick, the smaller profile Slick Junior, or the versatile Little Slick, one is sure to find that unforgettable thump we're all after. Visit your local tackle retailer or pureflats.com for your favorite color and rigging combination. Go sling some slicks today. You can't catch them on the sofa. So that's going to wrap it up this week. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember, to get your free AFTCO Camo Sunglasses Cleaning Cloth, just text the acronym LCBFR to 779-345-2918 to get your promo code and be added to our email list so we can send you the new show each week. You guys keep whacking them and be safe out there.